Hey everybody, today I want to go over a breakdown of some couple of thumbnail art I made for Echolite Media, who makes the machinima The WasteLand, and he asked me to make he asked me to make one thumbnail, but I made him a couple of thumbnails for him to choose from, and he eventually chose this one, which was a good thumbnail. I like it very much. I think out of all the three ones, it's probably the best, but I want to go over and show over one thumbnail that I made, because I think I did a lot of things with it, and I think that if I go down and break down what I did with it, it will kind of teach you guys on my creative process and how to use the program I use. So the program I'm using is After Effects CC 2017, and as you can see, I took a screenshot of my Spartan doing a pose in the main menu and the customization menu, and I did that to sort of get a specific angle and pose that I can get to use in this thumbnail. And what I did to get him out of here was that I created a mask around him, which are just little nodes that cut him out of the picture, and when I enable them, now he's cut out and I can start editing him out. What I did was to match with the background I'm using here, I use CC Toner, which allows me to change like different shades of the shadows and the white spots, which are just the places where the light hits. Then I did Matte Choker to make sure like any of the edges around him are cleared out, so I don't have anything in the blue from the background that I cut him out of. For this subject all I did was take a screenshot of him next to a green screen. I used color range to key him out, used matte choker to clean out any edges, I used hue and saturation with greens selected, just getting the green stuff out of his armor just to make sure that it's clean up, and used CC toner to blend him into the background. I also set his opacity to 50% so he's faded into the background. Now that's going to be fixed up later. He's a little bit too faded, but that's going to be fixed up later on. After I have both my subjects keyed and colored matched to the background, I then move on to the main meat of the image, which is the coloring. I put down an adjustment layer because anything that's below that layer, it has all its effects applied to all the different elements and layers below that. The first effect I use is Elementary Color because it has different effects and different plugins combined into one neat little effect that allows me to do many things and control different things, making it look a little bit more better, giving that a little bit of an HD kind of look. Then I use something which is a colorlet, which is basically packages of coloring and different kind of visual information that blends into a sort of coloring style that I can then use. The two I'll be using is Sedona and Alfaro. The one thing I do that many other people don't do is I set my LUTs to different percentages, because if you max out on one LUT, in my opinion, it looks too strong, and I try to put them at different percentages to kind of mix and match different LUTs together to make my own unique look. And I think if you do that, you can help make anything you make with these look more unique. After that, I apply a faint glow to make things look a bit shiny but not too shiny. After that, I put unsharp mask to sharpen up the image and bring out a little bit of detail out that may be blurred in the image, especially after I apply the glow. Now, as you can see, the image is a bit too dark at the moment, but don't worry, that's going to be cleared up with a little something that I think we're all familiar with: lens flares. The effect I use for my lens flares is Video Call Pilot's optical flares, and it has a bunch of different plugins and other stuff, like even has a little of custom lens flares already made. The flare I'm currently using can be found on Light tab and is the Sun Digital, with a little bit of the glow turned down a bit because it's a bit too bright for my taste. And I set it to a brightness of 50% and a scale of 150, so it's not too bright, but it also has a bit of rays coming out, so it acts like an actual sun. And I just forgot a crucial step. What I did was I masked this guy out, and I put his mask at a feather of 200. Hit that add, and it makes him look more faded into the background and cuts all the shoulders off, so it looks more like a faded image in the background. So after all that, I then add a few dust particles to make it seem a bit more dusty, a bit more deserty, and add some little visual stuff in there. Now over here, I have a bunch of duplicates of my subject layer for the guy on the right. Now why is that? Each of these layers have different coloring properties I do this to sort of match the coloring of the image, but also to make it look more realistic and blended into the image. And I'm going to show you each one. This one is for the visor. As you can see, it makes the visor a little bit more shiny and less like plastic looking from the default Halo visor. This layer colors in so it looks more red and more reflective off the coloring and the brightness that the sun is pulling off. this one is where I can make this little area right here a little more darker. And same thing applies to this one right here, it makes the arm a little bit more darker. Same thing applies to our subject and inlet. Instead I did like just 2 layers and I just duplicated them to make more dynamic and also to bring it out more out so it's not like very opaque in the background. Another thing I did was I made an adjustment layer with just the glow, so when I hit on that, it looks more glowy and more things are filling up there. It looks more brighter on the top. Now the last thing I did was add a bit of a depth of field effect onto here. Now what I do is I add a camera lens blur with all these things right here, and regularly I would put that on there, and boom, we have a depth of field effect. But that's what normally people would do and they would stop there. What I do is I set up a spherical mask around here, around somewhere where a lot of the focus is not put on the background, where everything's out of focus because our subject's focused, so everything's blurred. But it's also used to add 3-dimensional depth to the image. So, turn it on. This area is more blurred in, but it's like, it has a feather around it, so things over here are more in focus. They're still blurred, but they're more in focus. But as soon as you get more onto the subject right here, you get closer and things get farther apart. It gets more blurrier and blurrier and hard to see. It's out of focus, so it adds a sort of depth to it. It seems more 3D instead of a flat background. And I make sure for all my lens flares and dust particles that camera lens blur is turned on for each of the respective zones that it's in. And that is the gist of how I've made this image. Same things apply to here, but this one had better placement and just better coloring because of what I did before in the other image, and I thought it came out pretty good. But this one I think I did, you can obviously see I did a lot more with it, and I experimented a lot more with it. I like the other image, but I like the effort that was put into this image. So if you have any further questions, you'd like to see me go over some more effects or anything else I do, just let me know in the comments, and I may do more of these in the future. This is Grumpy Elite, signing out.